right now at 1:23, we're gonna go into the workshop. Okay, I think since we just said the pledges and the prayer and everything, we're gonna go right into the Master Thoroughfare Plan Study Kickoff. The objectives will include to discuss the process and organizational structure of the study, establish goals and objectives, verify North Central Texas Council of Government model, identify locally known issues. Lastly, a general discussion with stakeholders, steering committee, and technical committee. So with that, we're gonna open up the workshop, and I think we're gonna call on Ron Jones to go ahead and kick this thing off. We've got Clint Head standing by, and the other people here. So, Ryan, do you need to set up here so you can control it?
I don't think I need to sit in your chair this time. I think
You got it all right?
I think I can do it from here.
Okay.
But thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Clint, Manette, did y'all have anything y'all wanted to say before we get going, or y'all get started? Okay. We do have, I think, a couple of seats up here if everybody's here for the MTP kickoff. If y'all want to come over here and sit down to get a little closer, that's good. Otherwise, you can stay there. We do have some housekeeping things that I'd like to make everyone aware of. Do we have the sign-in sheet?
It's going around, yeah.
So there should be a sign-in sheet getting passed around. Who has the sign-in sheet right now?
Y'all can come up, there's two here and a couple over here. Come on in, we'll find some.
Yeah, Scott.
Right.
So there's the sign-in sheet. So that's gonna be passed around. If everybody who's here is here for this MTP kickoff, please make sure you get your name on the sign-in sheet. Come see me after the meeting if you don't have a chance to sign it. We'll make sure your name gets on there. No, y'all, these two are over.
Text us.
You're gonna
I told you to take it off there.
Okay, for those that are on the steering committee, so I know there's probably some folks from the public, there's also some folks from the county staff that are here today. I want to make sure we get these documents in the hands of the steering committee and the court first. But we'll be passing this document around. This is going to be a timeline and a process for the study that we're about to engage in, which will be, over the next year. I'm also going to be passing out a packet that looks like this. We're going to run through a quick slideshow to kind of introduce everybody to the study and why everybody's here today. We want to make sure everybody understands why we're here. And then lastly, we'll have a questionnaire that I'd like to make sure that all of the steering committee, everybody that's here to be on the steering committee, gets one of these. There's going to be plenty of opportunity today to discuss and talk amongst the group, but I also wanted to give everybody an opportunity to write your comments in this questionnaire form that we'll be then collecting after the meeting. So once you fill this out, make sure you get your name, who you're representing, your contact information, and then leave this on the table at the conclusion of the meeting because I'll be coming around to collect it. I'd also like to give you a business card. As much as we'd like to get everything discussed today, I know there's, if there's going to be a digestion that takes place during this next hour and a half, as we talk about these things that you'll probably need to think more on after the meeting. And so I'd like to give you my card. For those on the steering committee, if you have additional thoughts of the topics that we're discussing today after the meeting, please email me, and we'll continue to collect that feedback over the next week or so. So anyway, just wanted to make sure everybody was familiar with what we're passing out. Bill, my associate here, is going to be passing these out. Who all is here to be on the steering committee, first of all?
Of course, us.
Good.
Justin, raise your hand.
Would y'all mind keeping your hands raised while Will comes and passes these documents out? Once those are passed out, we may have some extra copies for other people, but I want to make sure the steering committee gets their documents first. So.
Ryan, did you want your business card?
Yes.
Bill?
I can go with you if y'all will.
Here. I'll follow you around here on these. How's that?
That's perfect. Thanks, Kevin.
I think I have to lick my fingers. I don't know if that's acceptable. Okay. There you go.
Here's my business card. Please contact me after the meeting if y'all have any more thoughts. Who else over here, Steve?
One pass.
So this sheet, just please make sure y'all leave this, because I'll be collecting them, but if y'all have any additional thoughts, email me or call me. Was there anyone over here that's on the same page?
So how would that play out?
Yeah, I gave it 5.
It's only for stakeholders first. Yeah,
Is there anybody that's on the steering committee that does not have a packet yet?
Mr. Stokes. And the emergency managers. You're on. That'll affect your routes.
You're welcome.
Give a little bit of a.
Yes, sir. Huh?
So while he's finishing passing that out, I just want to first.
I don't know who all's on this
thank
list,
everybody
Clint.
for coming, the stakeholders, and people that just have a vested interest because they live here in Hood County. So I want to thank you all for
City,
coming and
schools,
spending your time here today.
911.
We've got folks from North Central Texas Council of Governments
And
that
emergency
are
management.
working with us too, as well as our consultants, TNP. And Clint has done a really
They both get copies.
awesome job at pulling this together, making sure all the stakeholders were informed of what we're doing, when we're doing it, their involvement that will be needed over the next year or so as we go through this. And just to remind everyone that this master thoroughfare plan hasn't been updated since
2000.
2000. So this is a long overdue process, and I really am excited to get moving on it and see what we can do for the people that live in Hood County and the people that come and visit here or pass through here.
Not being open since April 13th, 2000.
There you go. So I'm going to hand it back over to Ryan, but just thank you all for coming, and looking forward to getting started.
Yeah, thanks to that, and Clint for helping us get this organized. Clint worked really hard getting in contact with everybody to make sure we had good representation across the county with all of our agencies. In addition to the handouts we just passed out, we also have a draft map of the county's MTP. We basically took what Clint has here, which may be the only physical copy of the current MTP for the county, and we translated that to a new document. And we do have some Sharpies up here. We'd really like for these meetings to be collaborative and a discussion between everybody. We really want good collaboration and good communication. So we want these meetings to kind of turn into a conversation between everyone. We also want y'all to have opportunity, plenty of opportunity to provide feedback. We have a map up here with some red Sharpies at any point during the meeting or after the meeting. If you'd like to come mark something up on the schematic or on the MTP map that you think would be beneficial in terms of improvements to the existing roadway network, please do that. Don't mark on this one, because like I said, I think that's the only physical copy we've got of the 2000 MTP. But yeah, thanks for everybody for coming. We're excited to be here. Before we really get into the discussion part, I'm going to run through a few slides just to kind of introduce why are we all here? I wanted to recognize that some of you may be here today and not really understanding, what we're here, what we're trying to accomplish. So we're gonna kind of run through talking about what an MTP is, why it's important that we have a current document, why it's important that we're gonna be making some updates to the document that was last created in the year 2000. And then we'll get hopefully into some really good discussion. We've got, I think, all of the cities here represented except for Granbury and Cordova. We've also got the COG team that's going to be a really valuable contributor to this process. Chris, Dan, and Marion. I think we've got some folks from the TechStut, was it Stephenville area office? Is that where you guys are from? So thank y'all for being here. And of course, we've got lots of county staff as well. So hopefully we get some really good discussion.
Can we have the stakeholders stand up and introduce themselves and?
We'll get to that in
Oh,
just a
okay,
second.
I'm jumping ahead. Okay.
But yes, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so without further ado, sorry for the intro, but I just wanted to kind of run through that. We want to make sure we had everybody get their packets before we got started. So in case you weren't aware, we are here for the Hood County Thoroughfare Planning Study Kickoff today. This will be considered workshop 1 in our study process. As I mentioned, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a background and purpose for why what we're doing here today and what we're gonna be doing over the next several months is so important for the county and for the folks that live here and use the county's roadway network every day. It's gonna be very important for the future of the county. So what we're doing here is a great opportunity to have a positive impact on the future of Hood County. The purpose of this study is ultimately to culminate in updated recommendations included on the Hood County Master Thoroughfare Plan. So you'll hear the acronym MTP being thrown around a lot today, likely. MTP stands for Master Thoroughfare Plan, which is a planning document for the roadway network for Hood County. What I've shown, I've given just a glimpse of a snapshot of, on the left side, you'll see the existing MTP map, which is developed in the year 2000. Believe it or not, that was 24 years ago, crazy enough as that is. We're now here in the year 2024, and it's definitely time, probably overdue for some updates to be made, because a lot has changed since the year 2000. So what is an MTP? An MTP, a Master Thoroughfare Plan, is a long-range plan for major transportation facilities within the county. It's going to guide location, size, timing of thoroughfare improvements to meet projected population growth and forecasted travel demands. A thoroughfare, when we talk about thoroughfares, we're talking about major roads, so highways, arterials, collector roadways. We're not talking about local roads. We're not talking about the street that you live on in your neighborhood. We're talking about roads that your neighborhood feeds to, and roads that really will be the ones that will cause congestion problems, and those are the ones that we want to focus on. So that's when we talk about thoroughfares, that's what we're talking about. Why is it important that we're doing an MTP update? Well, I mean, like we mentioned, the last update was 24 years ago, so it's time. Your updated Master Thoroughfare Plan will ensure connectivity and roadway capacity for future growth. So it's going to make sure that we're planning ahead, and we're not being reactive. We're being proactive in planning and getting things planned so that the future will have enough roadway capacity for traffic and relieve congestion. It's going to provide safety because we're going to look at locations of high accident rates, specifically likely fatalities. We want to make this roadway network safe. We're going to look at locations where y'all have experienced flooding issues. The Master Thoroughfare Plan is going to assign cross sections to different corridors, and when I say cross section, I'm talking about right-of-way width, number of lanes, what your pavement width is going to be, and that's going to facilitate safe travel for all modes of traffic, so not just vehicles, but pedestrians, bicyclists, those sorts of things as well. Obviously, we're looking ahead, so we're gonna be looking ahead, 20, 30 years from today. What may be a 2-lane road today might be within 50 feet of the existing right-of-way. We're gonna maybe see that in 20 years, it needs to be a 4-lane road or a 6-lane road with 120 feet of right-of-way. Well, we wanna know that today, because there's gonna be lots of development occurring in Granbury. There's a lot of population influx, and so you guys already know, there's developments occurring. Developers are gonna come in and start developing. We've got undeveloped land adjacent to these roadway corridors. We want them to dedicate the right-of-way necessary for future right-of-way needs. And so, and we don't wanna have to pay for it later. We want those developers to dedicate right-of-way. So it's gonna allow the county to preserve those right-of-way corridors for future roads. Having lane capacity is gonna improve air quality because it's gonna reduce emissions by maintaining traffic flow. COG, that's a very important thing to COG, very important to the EPA. I'm sure the county's aware of maintaining their air quality attainment status. So planning for your roadway network is gonna benefit those efforts. It's also gonna allow the county to plan for funding, because this MTP is gonna identify improvements that are gonna be needed to your roadway network over the next 20, 30 years. We might even look at sooner improvements in the next 5 to 10 years that we really need to start moving towards sooner than that. And knowing that we have to do something doesn't help unless we program funding for those improvements. And so it's gonna let you know what the improvements are and when you need them, so we can start going after some funding and getting that funding secured.
You want us to shut up, or you want to take questions?
Well, I have a few more slides. Did you have a question? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that last one, I'd like to know what was accomplished by the one in 2000.
None of us were here, so.
Nobody knows?
That was before I was here as well, so I don't know.
This is the only piece of it.
I'll address that. I'll address it for the court, because in 2007, when I was elected commissioner, we tried with T. Perkins to put one in place, and we actually had Scott Sopchak work with the city of Granbury. The city of Granbury, along with Harold Sandell and County Judge Andy Rash, wanted a thoroughfare plan in place, and the cost was too cost prohibitive. We couldn't afford it. And so I applaud the court for finding funding to do this one now, but we couldn't afford it. And with Crescent on the horizon and the county's portion of $11 million, we couldn't have done Crescent without Michael Morris and the Council of Government stepping forward. And so TxDOT took on the burden of the $55 million, and we took on the burden of $11 million. So we didn't have the money at the time. And I hear that at every county meeting I go to, there's no money. So the reason that court probably in 2000 didn't do anything more, as you know, as a fire chief, there's no funding.
Yeah, okay. I just couldn't understand.
And I'll tell you the biggest problem. Everybody wants a road and a new thoroughfare, but just not in my backyard.
Yeah, I know that. So really, the last one really didn't do much.
We just identified, they just identified.
They just met.
Like I said, identifying things and knowing what's needed doesn't do any good without the funding. So really, the next
So
step.
we're a little bit more greenfield this time. We don't have something to look back and say, this is how this worked before. That's what I was trying to understand. Thank you.
Well,
And the court approved spending the money to actually do a full MTP instead of just preparing a map.
yeah, and so that we'll get to that in a second. But the COG team, COG's providing a real value to the county because they're going to be providing a lot of the substance, the analysis that's going to support a new map. And the county's not going to have to pay for that.
So for practical purposes, we've never done this.
Not fully.
I don't. Yeah.
That'd be a
That's
correct
not what it
statement.
is.
That'd be a correct statement.
That's what I was trying to
Because
understand.
what's the cost of this one? Can we ask that question, Glenn?
Right now, we got $75,000 set aside to do this, but I can tell you that Johnson County is paying $399.
So we were quoted almost $750,000 in 2006 to 2007. We went to Michael Morris at COG, and he could not, he could help us, but then we all of a sudden got funding for Crescent, because Senator Birdwell stepped forward and we found that money, because Granbury could not use their money at the time on pass-through funding. And pass-through funding was a Senate bill that was in place at the time. So Granbury and Harold Sandell stepped away from pass-through funding, and we, Leonard Headings and I, took it and went to Crescent with it and used that pass-through funding. Then we found out we could not afford that because the way it was going to stifle our budget. So when we did that, Michael Morris then stepped up and found us a way that we could secure our $11 million that we are capped at for the 10 years to pay back, and the tech stock took the remainder of it.
Thank you. That educated me.
Good.
I'm done. I needed to learn.
Steve, were you the one that submitted the application to COG for this Thoroughfare Planning Study? Do we know?
2017.
Yes, yeah, 17 we did.
So it's been a number of years, but you were the one that submitted.
But we were out in the middle of Crescent and we had no extra money. We were paying $1 million every year in the general budget back to COG or TxDOT for our portion of the, because every project with TxDOT, the county has to take 10%. In our case, we took $11 million so that we could secure it. The only reason we took the deal is Judge Cochran said, we have got, because what's happening right now, bless their hearts, okay, and it's taken 5 years to build 3 miles, but what's happening is the county said, well, the only way we'll do this deal is we cannot have any overruns, and we're going to be stuck at $11 million. And our contract says like 11.7 or $11.9 million.
Okay.
But Bill Wimberly was our contact at T-Non Perkins at the time.
Yeah, I know Bill. He's living the good life now, retired, but yeah, Bill's a good guy.
Thought I was, so Clint called.
Okay, so I do want to shut up, and I do want to let more discussion take place. So I will try to run through these quickly. But I did want to highlight the fact, we were talking about why is this important. This population forecast for Hood County I pulled this from a presentation COG actually did, but it was based on March 2020 census data. It's indicating 60% growth from 2020 to 2045. I know you guys are in the current process of updating your 2045 plan to be a mobility 2050. So these numbers may have already changed, may change. I'm getting the thumbs up from Dan, so that means that these numbers have gone up since
Yeah,
then.
because the Texas Commission on Jail Standards report last April shows that 2040 we're supposed to be at 127
Wow.
plus. I mean, that's what they put out
So that would
last
be
April.
over 100% growth from 2020.
Exactly.
Census data. So I just wanted to put that up there. It looks like the numbers have gone up since these numbers that I pulled. There is currently, and there's going to be a lot of growth that's occurring here. So we need to plan for it. The image on the right, the survey on the right was taken from a public survey with the city of Granbury. And what you'll notice is it was a public survey of the residents, and this was just Granbury, it wasn't for the whole county. But 30% of the surveyed folks that responded, the highest concern was traffic and pedestrian circulation.
Do you know how many total people responded?
So it's,
Not 5.
Scott,
I don't.
can you answer that?
I'm sorry, I
The
was
total
writing
number
notes.
of respondents to that survey.
I do know.
so you're experiencing a lot of growth. You're experiencing a lot of growth, and it's a very important issue for your residents and your constituents. So how are we going to do this? Well, a large contributor is going to be COG. That's why they're here today. We're very grateful for them being a part of this. Very grateful for them being here today. And I wanted to give them a chance just to speak briefly on this Thoroughfare Planning and Sub-Area Study Program that they have that provides technical assistance to entities like Hood County to support updated recommendations on their MTPs. So I don't know if Marion or Dan or Chris, if y'all wouldn't mind just speaking a little bit, just generally in terms of what your team does, what y'all are going to offer through this program, and why that's such a benefit to the county.
Yeah, I'll start, and then these guys can chime in if I miss something. So I'm Dan Lamers, the manager for transportation planning at COG. Been there almost 40 years now, so I've done this a lot with a lot of different counties and cities. What we typically do is we work with whoever it is you hire, in this case, Teague Perkins. We'll work with them to help you identify what your needs are. All right, now, I don't want anybody to misunderstand. What we're not going to do is tell you exactly when you need to do something or where exactly you're gonna get the money. We'll help you identify what your needs are, what the timing of some of those needs are, what the potential sources of revenue could be, but as you grow, that's when you start implementing the plan. So our hope is this is not just lines on a map. This is actually a plan that helps you plan to get to those lines on the map. But it starts with the needs. So as Ryan was showing you, population, we are in the middle of doing population estimates now. Some of those estimates show higher, some of those estimates show lower. It just, not from where you are today, but where the original ones were in 2045. And the reason is, if you've lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area a long time, you know, if we look back 20 years, the region did not develop like we projected it was going to be 20 years ago. Nobody would have expected Collin County to be what Collin County is today, right? We don't know what that next hotspot's going to be. Could be Johnson, Hood, Parker County. But the point is, you need to be prepared if it is. So my suggestion is going to be we look at different scenarios for growth for your county. And there are going to be certain facilities that are going to show up needed regardless of which scenario you're looking at. Those are the ones that we really need to prioritize, help you prioritize and figure out how to deal with. The other ones, we just have to monitor. And you're not going to, I hope you're not going to wait another 25 years to update this plan again. My hope is part of this is going to be, at least we're going to recommend, part of this is you have an annual or biannual review of the Thoroughfare Plan or the transportation plan, and make any updates as needed. Because when we start looking 20, 25, 30 years in the future, there's a lot of assumptions. Not just demographic-wise, but there are a lot of assumptions that go into doing those forecasts. Those assumptions are going to change in real time as you get another developer that comes in and wants to do something. You get a relocation of a business that wants to do something. So it's important for you to ensure that you have a mechanism in place to review all those assumptions on a regular basis. And we don't want to have to do this start over from scratch thing again. What we would rather do is every couple of years work with you, update whatever forecasts we come up with, and make little refinements as we go. The important thing, another important thing as part of this is by having us help you with a lot of this, you will be plugged into the rest of the regional transportation planning process for the entire Dallas-Fort Worth area. Right? You are not a standalone community or county. You are part of a larger region. For better or for worse, you're part of that larger region. So a lot of your issues will be dependent on what happens in the rest of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we want to make sure you're plugged into that process. Part of that process is regular planning activities like we're doing now. Part of that process is being eligible for certain funding sources when they become available. And you've heard Michael Morris's name talked about a lot. I've worked with Michael Morris for decades. He seems to have a magic wallet that he finds money to build a lot of things and to help a lot of people. And he's able to do that because we can integrate those recommendations into a larger transportation planning system for the region. right? It's no secret that both at the state and federal levels, transportation funding is either stagnant, it's going up slightly, but it's very difficult in today's day and age to secure transportation funding. What has happened over the last 10 years is, at least at the federal level and at the state level, a lot of the money that used to come to this region by formula, meaning you pay your gas taxes, that money goes to Washington. Washington sends that money back to Austin. Austin sends that money back to the region. It's a process. Throughout all of that process, money gets put into different buckets. Those buckets can be used to do certain types of things depending on state and federal policy. What's happened over the last 10 years is that a lot of money that used to come to this region by formula is now, I would call it, it's now competitively, yeah, you have to compete for the money, in other words. In other words, the money's there, but now we have to compete for the money, not just within our state, but across the entire country. So the important thing we have to do is develop real projects that when funding is available, we can jump in and apply for that funding when it's available. That has helped us bring over $20 billion extra to this region over the last 10 to 15 years by having projects shovel-ready, if you could call them that, through the planning process and project development process. Yeah, they may sit there waiting for money, but at least they're sitting there waiting for money and not still on a drawing board somewhere. Because money will be available, I promise you that. It's just a matter of when that money will be available and how can we apply for that money when it is available. There will be regular money available and we'll help you prioritize that as well. But the important thing is to develop real projects. Again, not just lines on the map. And to that end, we're going to help you do all of the technical work associated with that. We'll help you with all the needs. We'll help you test and analyze different alternatives that we want to look at. Help you prioritize what it is you want to do. And a lot of that is going to depend on what you want to do. I've said that a couple of times. There is no answer to what your thoroughfare plan is going to look like. There are a lot of different answers. The question is, do those answers really answer the question that you are asking it to be? You're not like Dallas County. You're not like Denton County. You're not like Ellis County. You're not like Johnson County. You're Hood County. You have a different set of needs than anybody else. So we don't know what those are until you tell us what your desire is to be. And the last thing I'm going to say along those lines is, I've done this a lot, and when I go to a lot of counties, particularly some of the more rural counties, they have a hard time explaining what they want to be. And I'm going to say this somewhat, it's going to sound demeaning, but I don't mean it to be that way. What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a bedroom community to the Dallas-Fort Worth area? Do you want to be your own vibrant economy in Hood County? I would try to steer you towards being your own vibrant economy in Hood County. So you don't have to send your residents into Fort Worth to work every day. Keep them here in your own county. They live and work here. They're paying taxes on both sides. But at the same time, you've got a lot of economic activity going on here now. You need to make sure you retain that economic activity and bring in the people to live here that can support the economic activity that you currently have. So all of those things have to be thought about, and you all have to be the ones that help us understand how much you want to rely on people that live here, people that don't live here, employment that's here, or employment that's somewhere else. You have to help us understand what that is, because that's going to determine what your needs are. And I'm going to shut up now too, because we want to hear from everybody that's here.
Thank you, Dan. That's very helpful. And to Dan's point, needing to hear from everyone That's the importance of why everybody's here today, is that only you guys really know this area. I don't know this area like y'all do. COG doesn't know this area like y'all do. You know what your needs are, you know what your vision for your community is, and that's where y'all are gonna have such valuable input to this study as we progress. So COG, and then like we just mentioned, steering committees, that's where the county, the municipalities, the ISD, Steve with the railroad, y'all are all making up the steering committee that is comprised of local government stakeholders. Y'all are gonna be able to tell us what your needs are, what your vision is. Technical committee is made up of Dan and his team. Can y'all introduce yourself really quick? Just,
Wanna go this way?
yeah.
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Reed, Principal Transportation Planner from the Council of Governments. I manage the Suburban Studies and Thoroughfare Planning Assistance Team. Real quick, just I guess some housekeeping. When we get to the verify COG model item, Wade was hoping to connect to the screen, but I didn't know if there's someone that he can.
He can come sit over here and there's an HDMI cable.
Because we've got an online mapping program that he'll be able to show our roadway network.
Awesome.
But yeah, Wade will introduce himself here in a second, but he and I will be coordinating with the consultants and Mr. Samuelson and everyone else on basically the data that we can provide, the travel demand model we can run, looking out as far as 2045 and hopefully in later stages of this project as far as 2050, look at demographics, look at safety, look at all the data points. We're a main data resource for the region, and that's what we're here to help.
Brian Barks, Program Manager at the Council of Governments. I oversee my team, oversee Thoroughfare Planning and Sub-Area Studies Planning, as well as another part of my team works with TxDOT, all three districts on large corridor feasibility studies as well. So that's another component of this that we may need to take into account, that you have some TxDOT on-system facilities that run through the county. So be sure you're working with them as you develop those, so you can make sure you're consistent with the mobility plan. You're actually kicking off this at a great time, as we're developing our metropolitan transportation plan, and some of the facilities that we may not have in this network that Wade's going to show you, we can kind of get those in at what we call the perfect time, so we're going to do any type of amendment or anything like that. So always keep that in mind at any time, but now you're getting in at a good time, I think, to kind of update your full system here in Cook County.
My name is Wade. I work on the team under Chris and Brent. Pretty much what I do is travel demand modeling, so our traffic simulations, as well as GIS mapping. So excited to help you all out with this.
Awesome, thank you guys. So COG is going to be a big part of our technical committee that's going to be supporting this process. TxDOT's already here, also here. You guys want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Chris Neal. I'm out of the URAF area office, part of the design team there. And
My name is Noel Spar. I'm the Assistant Area Engineer over in URAF and over in Somerville.
Scott Sopcak, and I'm also with the design section in URAF, Stephenville.
So as Bryn mentioned, TxDOT, y'all have your own projects also that y'all are working through. You have your own initiatives, and so having y'all here to contribute to this discussion and tell us what y'all have in the works so that we can build really a cohesive plan is going to be real important. So thank y'all for being here. And then the last piece really is the public. I don't know if we have anybody from the public here today. Do we? Do we have anybody from the public? Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Your involvement in this process is going to be very important. All of these workshops, really by function of the commissioners being here as an open public forum, is going to allow y'all to be here at every meeting. So we're going to have a series of workshops. We want for y'all to come. We want to hear the impact or the feedback and the input from the public. So thank y'all for being here. We'll have these workshops, and then we'll also, once we get to a place where we have some vetted recommendations, preliminary recommendations, we'll take those recommendations to a public hearing, public meeting, and present those recommendations, gather more public input before we finalize the recommendations. So the public's going to play a very important role in this as well. Okay, so steering committee. You guys are very important. So thank y'all also for being here. You guys are going to be providing feedback on the vision. You are going to be the source of guidance and decision-making during the development of recommendations generated by the study. And we want really great representation across the county. We don't want this to be a Granbury effort. We don't want this to be a Crescent effort. We want this to be just a county-wide effort with representation all across the county. Who all is on the steering committee that's here today? Can you raise your hands again? Can we, I guess the court can start, and can we go around the room and just introduce ourselves so that everybody kind of knows who's going to be on the steering committee? This is going to be, there's going to be multiple meetings. We'd really like consistency and representation on these committees, so if you're here today and you're willing to stick with us for the next several months, we would really appreciate that so we can have consistency in decision-making on those sorts of things. So, Nanette, do you want to start?
I'm Nanette Samuelson, Commissioner for Precinct 2.
Kevin Andrews, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Ron Massengill, Hood County Judge.
Jack Wilson, Commissioner, Precinct 3.
Dave Eagle, Precinct 4 Commissioner.
And then, sir, did you want to start?
Want to come down, Michelle?
Yeah.
I'm Michelle Burdett, I'm City Administrator in total.
Pete White from Stockton Bend.
I'm Ron Becker, I'm Mayor Pro Tem and Fire Chief in the Crescent.
Steve?
Steve Berry, I'm the Hood County Representative for Sensex Rural Rail District.
Mike Stowe, City of Lafayette.
Margaret?
Margaret Campbell, Emergency Management, Hood County.
Is that everybody?
Justin?
Justin Bullock, Lafayette ISD.
Awesome.
Granbury,
Brian Brothers, Granbury
I
ISD.
see. There he is. I couldn't see.
Where's the total? I didn't see anybody from total.
Okay. Thank y'all for being here as well. Technical committee, we already talked about. So next, I'm going to just really quickly, you guys should have this handout. I want to really quickly run through this because I am talking too much. But this is the general timeline and role for the study. As you can see, there's going to be several of these meetings. We're going to have this initial workshop to establish goals and objectives. This is kind of the goal setting phase. Next, we're going to get into technical analysis. That's where our partners in COG are going to provide a lot of support to us so that we can evaluate alternatives. Last, we'll get into public review and then finally plan adoption. We envision this process taking likely at least 12 months. The formation goal setting phases are pretty well, those pretty defined, quantifiable timelines, as is the public review and plan adoption. The piece that's going to be kind of a little bit of a fluid process that's unknown is the technical analysis, and that's really going to be determined based on how many alternatives are we looking at. What kind of feedback are we getting from our steering committee? We met earlier this week with Chris, Barry, and Wade, and they were communicating that there is a definite time component to running this analysis and these models. So how many models and alternatives they need to run is really going to make is going to drive how long that technical analysis timeline is. Right now we've penciled in 6 months, but that could change. So I don't want to lock y'all in with the idea that is what it's going to be, but that's what we're hoping it will be. So here's where we're at now. We're at workshop 1. So we're at the very, very start of the process. We've established the steering committee, technical committee. Thank you all for being here once again. And we're getting into goal setting. And so now, here's where I'm gonna definitely try to shut up, and I want to get y'all's input. everybody from the steering committee should have that questionnaire sheet. It's got a section for you to write down goals. It's got a section for you to write down known problems with and safety concerns with the existing network. It's got a section for you to write down known plan improvements, text dot. I'd love for y'all to fill up. If y'all don't have a sheet, we'll get you one. Because I'd love to get y'all's input on what kind of projects y'all have planned, other than the obvious one in 377. So make sure you're filling that sheet out. Please leave that in the back. But we'll start with goals that Dan hit on in your vision. What does Hood County want to be when they grow up? What kind of a community do we want to be? What do we want our land use to be? Or do y'all have thoughts on mobility and safety that y'all want to talk about and share? So Clint, you want to start?
I've identified a few areas about the mobility and safety and flooding. I'll start with, I guess, in the west. Over at Torch Springs, eventually that growth's going to be to where it comes through there, and there's no way to widen Highway 4 through Torch Springs. We have a problem with flooding in Stroud Creek. If we could get some kind of Torch Spring bypass that come into the water out there that would give the people on the other side of the creek access, because we have to have a bridge across the railroad, so if we could do it with a bypass for Torch Springs, that'd be great to kill two birds with one stone.
You want to come run this and show everybody the map what we're... Stop trading seats.
Right over here is Archer Court. There's already existing right of way. Can't see the creeks or anything on here, but if we could have some kind of loop or whatever, because right in here is 4 where it does all kinds of crazy and there's no way to ever widen it. If you're gonna have to build a bridge, might as well build a bridge that makes double effort and gets the people out of Stroud Creek and bypasses Torch Springs.
So you're saying
Yeah.
those
This little section right here, that Stroud Creek comes across this point right here. And everybody that lives on this side of that, there are 19 square miles that come into about 50 feet of width right there. And whenever it rains an inch in Toller, people in Stroud Creek can't get through. I mean, they're locked in there, and I think there are 47 homes on the back side of that. And they can't get out. No emergency service vehicles can get in.
The only ones I've identified are the arterial ones. This was an arterial one that would make up for that also. But in 99, 98 or something, I was working on a possible bypass at Toller. I'm not sure what happened to that, but all y'all text 21 people. There's no way they're gonna be able to expand 377 through Toller without taking out half the city. So that might be something to think about, is either a north or south bypass there. And then
My understanding is Colony Road kind of began as
it was on Highway
kind
10.
of a potential bypass around there.
It used to be the highways. The other concern is Fall Creek, Con, and Brino. This being the shortest pass across the river, and we had no access to this land that's in the county that we've been told many times that it's really not useful. If we had an arterial road that come across that there, the river right there in that shortest span, and come over here into Johnson County and you hit 67, you're 2 miles to the tollway. So that would open up this property, and it would give us access and could give Pecan in the future a way of exiting if they ever had to evacuate because of the nuclear plant. The other one is Fall Creek. Fall Creek comes down here and stops by Pecan. Now this is a long span right here to put a relief route there. That'd be a really expensive bridge, so maybe there's another alternative. But I suggest we look into finishing Fall Creek back to Cleveland Highway, and then maybe possible something out to 377. Those are the areas I identified.
Thank you.
This land right here would no longer be worthless if we had a thoroughfare to it.
Yeah, and there's a county road that will connect to the state highway.
And it would give everybody a straight shot to the toll.
Yeah.
Well, and I think another part that's been kicked around and discussed quite a bit is kind of the southwest continuation of the loop there to get from 144 back up to 377. Yeah, my understanding is that the heaviest traffic in this county is at 144 and 377. It's a mess in there. An alternative route for those folks that are south of 144, south of 377 off of 144.
I'd have to see the model, but I think that if we put that highway out to Johnson County to the tollway, you'd relieve some of the congestion on 377.
Yeah, I think anything that gets
There's
folks
people
out
that
of
live,
that.
there's people that live within 7 miles of the 377, 144, south of that if they're going to Fort Worth, they go all the way to Glen Rose, hit 67 they go 144, 67 to go in that way on a daily basis.
That's the way I go.
You know, I mean, that's not uncommon.
I believe that.
And I've got maps, to continue the loop off of here, pretty much, with some options to either, where we go, to where we cross either down here on the river, as Clint was talking about, or we go across the lake, to complete that loop. That already exists. It's been we've been working on that for about 2 years.
Electric Plant Road's got a really wide existing right of way, but that's a long span across that lake, so that'd be a really expensive bridge.
Right. And I believe y'all's model has that loop shown, right?
Yeah, we'll show it in a little bit, but we've got some of what you're talking about.
It doesn't go east of 144, but it connects 377 south to the
And whenever they come in, the reconfiguration at 144 and 377, my understanding is that Biloxi Highway is going to have access to 377 at that point, instead of having to come right now off Biloxi Highway. You have to come up to right here at Morgan Street and then come back south to get to 377.
Or you take
Whereas,
Pirate Drive,
do what?
you take Pirate Drive.
Yeah, or
Off of
Pirate Drive.
Biloxi
coming up
Highway,
to-
take Pirate
yes.
Drive.
But that, I don't know, that could be a relief for some of that
You already have a plan
traffic down
for
there.
access to 377 from Biloxi, right? Yeah.
How far down on 144 was that 567 loop? Where on 144 is there a proposal or a thought?
Just south of, what's that ranch called?
Notch Ranch.
Yeah, Notch
Notch
Ranch over
Ranch.
there, but what's the other ranch over on 144?
Bowser,
Bowser, just south of that.
come in,
That's
Foster
the
Creek,
east
right?
side of
You tell us.
Comanche
Foster
Creek.
Creek.
Conditions
I'm
are.
curious as to where y'all.
Yeah, so you think.
It's on the screen.
Oh, okay, there it is, there it is. All right, so Wade's got it right.
We call it a loop, but it's actually a G. I don't know if that was intentional.
So this is that new segment from
This is
2045.
2045.
Yeah,
2045. Y'all have 2050?
that's what you're gonna help us develop.
Before be wide, that's good news for me, but wide, just more
Dorch
right away.
Springs. And you have to have the bridge and then, all them little 90-degree turns right there in front of the grocery stores.
I mean, good, so it's no way.
That'd be a way, but it'd be really expensive
Be
to take
tearing
back.
down buildings.
It's the acquisition of existing properties. If they've been developed, it's more expensive to put it through there. If you get that cool, you come down, go down the loop.
Wasn't there an old road proposed from Indian Harbor across the lake?
The city had one, they proposed one that went across Port Call to also.
Right in here, well,
It wasn't a large span, but that's not very deep right there. Maybe just in a small.
It's not only a large span, but there's a 30-foot elevation difference, so you're talking about
That's true too.
probably taking out all of Port Call.
I think this was the city of Granbury's, this is shown on the city, that's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's so populated now though, from 144 back across there. So when Scott will laugh about this. When they built 567 around the loop, I was in office. Nobody will ever use that loop, they told us, because all it did is go down the Mesquite Pit and kill right there. They looked at trying to go across Stockton Bend, Porter Court, and land on Bentwater side. And Don Lenny and I looked at that many times, but the problem was there was already $1 million homes built on Bentwater, Mallard Point, and Peninsula side. So that's important when they're looking at this, is you can't just always go. That's a lot of houses to buy out.
Absolutely.
But they said they would never use Loop 567, and now I can't even get on it.
That's why this is important to do that now before those get developed and the structures go up in the way.
Absolutely.
And 567 is being developed, both sides.
Correct.
All the way, from 51 all the way to 377.
And I do about 700 City Hall,
So Ryan, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Because I've seen Johnson County's map, I've seen College County's before. When this group identifies roads in the Commissioner's Court, or when everybody, all the partners agree on them, does TxDOT or y'all break these out in different colors? Because some are gonna be a 20-year wish list, some are gonna be, the loop around Granbury to get us from 144 to 377 will be a huge impact and a quick, easier impact than a bridge across the lake. But will you break these out in colors for the public to see, that we'll know this is a 5-year plan, this is a 20-year plan, this is a wish list?
I think we can definitely do that. I know y'all did something similar for your Wise County update, is y'all had, they had near-term goals for projects and then long-term projects. And we can definitely work with y'all to figure out the best way to display that on the map. But that is something that I think y'all can do, is that?
Yeah, we'll help you look at, prioritization, which is based on need. So, there's certain, you may need something sooner, but you may not have the ability to implement it sooner, right? So we'll help you identify if you need something sooner and you can get it done soon. If you need something soon, but you just don't have the resources, or there's no resources to do it, like going across a lake, I can guarantee you that no matter, even if we said you needed it today, there's no way you're gonna do that in the next 10 years, right? The money just isn't there. I'm sure you need Corps of Engineers, and you need all kinds of approvals to be able to do all that. The environmental cost is gonna be huge. So it doesn't make any sense for us to identify or to lead you to believe you need it sooner. So we're gonna have to work with you on need versus ability to get something done. But we'll identify the needs, then we'll move into the how soon can we get it done discussion.
Just to bring it up, there is a current deal going with the city and over in Dave's precinct on Old Granbury Road, but that's not part of this deal.
Correct.
Well, that was a good question, Clint. Will what Commissioner Wilson's been working on, will 167, is that already a given that this group doesn't have to work on? Will 167 be expanded, Commissioner?
They're looking at it, they've already done 2 studies on part of that, and, they're doing a reevaluation study right now on that side of it right now.
And on the other side of the highway, Temple Hall,
Yeah, same thing there, and you also got 167, in fact, I had an email yesterday, I don't know if you did, about 167 past Old Granbury Road going out further out. They're out there surveying, there's survey stakes out there on the road now. Because I saw them this morning.
Can you show us where on the map we're talking about?
Temple Hall, it was way out there where it comes into Monroe Highway, they were out there.
Right here. Old Granbury Road's here, which is already, like Clint was referring to, already got, this activity going on Old Granbury Road, combination with the city. But from right here all the way
To Monroe
up
Highway.
to the Monroe Highway cutoff, there's a few stakes on both sides of the road now. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, there's actually a project being developed right now, 167 being widened to 12-foot lanes, minimum 4-foot shoulders. It'll go from US 377 all the way to FM 51.
All the way back around to the loop, all the way to 51.
Okay,
And that project is, barring any changes, is set to let in July of '25, so.
Wow,
Next.
good.
Does that make it 4 lane or it stays 2 lane?
No, sir, it'll stay 2 lane, but it'll have shoulders. The bridges will be replaced. Or one bridge replaced, one bridge widened.
So that's 167 from 377 to 51
Yes, ma'am.
will be widened. Okay, so we should, just for the North Central Texas COG people, we should talk about what's going on with Old Granbury Road, because it's, I mean, it's within our county and it's a very important project, so Dave, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay.
So we've been in discussions with the city, because Old Granbury Road, from where you Y into it, close to downtown to where it comes back out at Crescent, is a 9-mile stretch. And there's, we're looking at a 4.5-mile stretch right now from where it Y's in on 377 all the way to Industrial Boulevard, to work in conjunction with the city of Granbury. And we're doing planning study right now for that. We just actually okayed the city's working with TNP directly, then we've got an interlocal agreement with the city to start developing the, not plans and specifications yet, but just the studies to get us there. And, you know, I want to get something going on Old Granbury Road as quickly as we can from my perspective, because sooner or later, when 377 project gets kicked in, people are going to need a way around there. And Old Granbury Road runs parallel with it for a big part of the way, so that would be a great off-feed for people coming in from, especially once the Crescent bypass gets done. So it'd be easy just to come around and get on Old Granbury Road and just stay off of 3. Of course, they're stuck with 377 when they get to it, down here at the left corner. There's not much we can do about that, but anything else they're doing on 377, people can go around it. And on Jack's side too, you know, there's what's the name of that road? The 04.
Yeah, 67 and Old Acton Highway, and then Highway 4.
No, it's down below. Yeah.
Down here.
Right here. This Fall Creek Highway, this is 167, and then over here, then the Old Acton Highway here. You know, we've also got, we widened that to make a dual 2-lane, you know, where you can turn left or right at this intersection. And we're waiting on material to TxDOT to put a red light there. You know, that's what they keep telling us now. They're saying it's 3rd quarter, probably the 4th quarter of this year for that light to go in. But, you know, all of this is, you know, a major thoroughfare, you know, for a lot of people, both out of Cordova, Pecan, and on that side of the county.
But just to give you some insight, thank you, Mr. Berry, for coming in to bring us your wisdom from prior to when we got in here.
I just don't want you to make the same mistakes I made.
About what?
I don't want you to make the same mistakes we made.
No, I'm not gonna go there, but the point I'm trying to make here is just the Old Granbury 4.5-mile portion. We're looking potentially at $50 to $60 million. You know, I wanna get this in financial perspective here. You know, it's just doing Old Granbury Road that we've been talking.
From here
into industrial. $50 to $60 million.
Up here, right, the industrial.
Yeah, industrial, right
The
there.
very last road.
So, you know, this is a huge, over time, I think the county and the city together, we can probably come up with a big part of the money, if not all of it, if we have to get it done. But bridges, major purchases of right-of-way and that kind of stuff, we could not put that burden on the taxpayers. I mean, we've got to get help from the state, and we got to, much as I hate to say it, potentially get help from the feds. I don't know. But you know, that's what we're looking at up here as elected officials is, you know, where do you get the money? Because we're talking about lots of money.
Because Pitt County has clean air, it's not readily available to us.
And just to put the $50 million for that portion of Old Granbury Road, the county's budget is what, $40 million a year. Our entire budget to run the county. So, you know, try to keep that in perspective, or understand that when we're struggling with how we're gonna make all this happen. And every stakeholder in this room right now, state, TxDOT, North Central Texas Council of Governments, us, you know, we've got a little bitty place to get money, and we need a big bunch of money. And we could, you know, if we were to put that on the taxpayers, we would ever want to vote out next time. So, for sure. And run out of town on a rail and burned at the stake. So.
Do we need to plan a rail?
Can you move this part to the middle? Okay, so this is similar to what Clint was talking about earlier. If you could go up just, okay. So as Commissioner Wilson said, Pecan's down here, and there's soon to be 10,000 people living in Pecan once it's all built out. Plus, there's developments on both sides of Fall Creek in Commissioner Wilson's precinct. There's also now development, if you go past Pecan on Fall Creek and Massey Road, those are starting to build up into neighborhoods. So one of the things Fall Creek is, as you know, it's not very wide. It's 2 lanes, there's no shoulder, and there's hardly any right-of-way. So one of the things that we talked about, I think this is Cottontail, it doesn't have a name on it right now, but extending this to Langdon Leak Court and coming down to connect with Massey, because if you could get people out of Con and everywhere around this area to 377, you could bypass Fall Creek, and that would help just on a day-to-day commute basis, but it would also help on the evacuation if that were to happen. So there's ways to get, it's just, you have to connect here, you have to connect Rash to Massey, but there's a way to do it. It's just need to put in a plan, but that would really alleviate a lot of the traffic that's currently going down Fall Creek. That's one of the fears I have on Fall Creek is trying to get an emergency vehicle down Fall Creek either way, because when it's 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you've got traffic going both ways and you have an emergency vehicle, there's nowhere for the people to go to get out of the way, because there's no shoulders.
Or God forbid that the accident was in the middle of Fall Creek and
Yes.
people were just stuck.
And that has happened,
Yeah.
especially
right
at that
there,
intersection.
Highway 4,
Yeah,
you know,
Cleveland Road.
Cleveland Highway and 167 at the cemetery, you know, it's a repeated accident, at least 1 or 2 a month, right there. And there have been several fatalities and severe, you know, major incidents there. And, you know, y'all get to replace they replaced all of the guardrails from 3 different hits. Less than 4 days later, he got hit again, and it's still, you know, I mean, it's in that same spot, it's continual.
And at that intersection, there's a current plan being developed to expand turn lanes
Right.
but it is a difficult intersection. You mentioned
It
the
is.
cemetery that's right there, that gives certain constraints. But it's being worked on currently.
You know, that's part of what they're already, you know, they're doing the restudy again. I know they did a study 1.5 years ago. I talked to, you know, Sarah about a month ago on that same thing, and it's back in restudy, you know, working on that now.
Yes, sir.
So an alternative release route would be awesome for that area like she.
Yeah, so here's Rash Court, if it could be extended to Massey, and then when people come out of, or extend it over to Matlock, I mean, whatever makes the most sense, but if people could come out of Pecan, get on Matlock, get to Rash, and then up through Langdon Leak and get on 377, that'd relieve a lot of the traffic on Fall Creek.
I think, if I can, Clint's suggestion that there needs to be a south way into Cleburne
Yes,
is,
yes, that's another option.
well, I think it's more, when we sit here, we kind of look at that and say, okay, that'd be nice, but it's out there. What I'm concerned about is everything that we seem to talk about in Hood County is all designed to funnel it all onto 377 through Crescent. We're gonna get the bypass. I may not be alive, but we're gonna get the bypass. But, you know, the capacity of 377, say from Fall Creek on up into Fort Worth, if you get these type of population growths, I'm not so sure that we're not funneling everything into a bottleneck on 377. And we talk about all of this, but let me tell you, you get across the county line, you get into Parker County, and you get into Tarrant County, y'all drive it, you know what's coming over there. And those people are all funneling on to 377 too.
Yeah.
And
This will be better.
I think we're gonna be short-sighted, or at least my opinion is, Hood County will be short-sighted if we kind of conceptually stick to the idea that what we're trying to do is sort of get people onto 377 to Crescent and
Right.
great, it's done. I don't think that's gonna be the case down the
What if we look at going from, 167 around Acton area, somewhere in there, going basically straight north instead of Old Godly Road, 2231, go, some kind of thoroughfare straight to 171,
Could
between
work.
Crescent and Godly.
Yeah, 171 is, that's no seal once you hit that thing.
Are you talking about connecting to?
He's talking
trying
about,
north of the
Oh,
he's
he's talking
talking
about
about up further
Oh, I
north,
thought you were
rather
talking
than,
down.
rather than getting all the way into Cleburne and catching the Chisholm Trail Tollway to kind of try to collect into 171 south of Crescent somewhere, but you know, and hey, okay, great, we kind of relieved the part of 377 that's in Hood County.
Right.
But boy, then we dumped it all right back in that intersection, and you hit the Parker and you hit the Tarrant County stuff, and I'm not so sure that Clint's deal about saying something around the south that gets all the way to Chisholm Trail, that we kind of shrug our shoulders and say, oh, no big deal and everything, but I'm not so sure that's not more important than it looks, because
And I think it'd take a lot of relief out of 144 and 377.
we keep dumping it all, even with the bypass, we keep dumping it all right there. It's gonna,
We've already got people that, yeah, I think Jack mentioned, that go down to 67.
Yes.
If we could
shoot them
get a
across.
different
It's a state road right here.
easterly route from that
You know,
side to
his idea was
67
get
or
them
the
to
tollway.
67 and on into Cleburne and onto the Chisholm Trail,
Then it opens up the part of the county we don't have access to.
but we got a river.
Yeah, take a bridge with that. I think bridge has always been part of this conversation somewhere on the south, whether it's Ports of Call or Mambrino to Fall Creek or
Well, that's why I picked where I picked, to be
southeast
sure
through
the
that
speed.
corner.
I think, Clint, you were showing something like right in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you go up north of there, right there where.
Right here,
River
Yeah.
County.
and then
Where
come
Mitchell
down,
Bend Highway comes across, just projected,
right there.
just south of, what's it called, Brazos River here?
Yeah, Brazos
Yeah,
River.
we already.
Just come right down, then you got County Road, and then an FM down here, and then you go straight into 67.
But I think we're kind of gonna have to, as kind of a general goal, is the objective to work the congestion in Hood County and put it all on the 377 through Crescent? Or is the objective to get us another way out of Hood County? And I think those are two different things.
Right.
I agree. That's really true.
I think that, my idea with that was to relieve 144 and give us another option out of here.
So I don't want to be devil's advocate, but the reason we went north of Crescent instead of south of Crescent around the racetrack is because we were told by TxDOT and Council of Governments and the state legislator, you can't spend taxpayers' money in another county.
Right.
So we didn't go to Johnson County when we went on the loop, we went the northern route, which was all in Hood County. So if you go back to the south, so my point is, Commissioner Samuelson, you're right. But when you get down there, either Somerville or Johnson County's got to participate
To get us back.
or have help from
Yeah.
COG and TxDOT to help you make that work.
Well, the great thing about this timing of this is Johnson County is doing their master thoroughfare plan right now too.
I agree.
If only you were working with a group of people that paid attention to the whole region.
That'd be great. That's a great idea.
That's why you're in the room, right? Crescent is very big, but we got a lot of regions.
Everybody knows what Crescent is.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. So from here, about here, from about here to the end, into Somerville County, this is a state road right here. So, I don't know if that's helpful or
That's
hurtful, but.
going into something, well, the way I had mine drawn was going out through Johnson, but it was
Yeah.
following an existing road.
And then,
That would really, that's kind of a solution.
where's
Less acquisition.
the Chisholm Trail? Where is it? Figure out
That way
which
we
one
see what's
gets-
going on in Johnson County.
Wow.
Well,
Right
if we
here.
connect up with Chisholm Trail, that'd help them out too, though.
Yeah, you get to 67 and you call it good.
25
Yeah, you can take 67
You're out of
tire.
there.
You just try to keep about Crescent.
You just try to keep traffic out of Whiskey Flat. I know what you're doing.
Well, a little less at Whiskey Flats would be nice. It has dropped off since the Triple X movie theater
Yeah.
was pulled up.
Yeah.
Barry doesn't come over.
I need to come to your meeting more often.
So can you get the latest on it?
They're supposed to already be on there, I've got the
Maybe you gotta go.
Where do you want to
more,
look?
zoom in more,
Do
right
you want to know what state
around here.
facilities are within this portion?
There you go.
Come back, Rockford.
And this is the, yeah, so there's 21.
Yes.
74, that's the one that then connects.
Hey, that thoroughfare plan they had marked on your driveway.
There you go. And then you can get on 199 and
Mr.
then.
Lammers, let me ask you
Or come
this.
over here
We
to
talk about
Taylor.
going out through
See that?
Pecan up there with the nuclear plant being there. Do you think there's any chance of working with the feds and getting some money because of the nuclear plant, safety issues regarding that?
Well, they're, getting money is a little bit different than being eligible. So what
Yeah,
we
that's
do-
what I'm saying. I want to get the money, not be eligible for it.
Right, so we'll make sure, first, we gotta make sure it's all eligible for
Yeah.
the money, right? So we gotta make sure that we get this included on the national highway system, we get something like that included on the national highway system.
Yeah.
That makes it eligible for different pots of money that some of these other ones wouldn't be.
That's my point,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody need your car running by the air monitor up there will become eligible.
Yeah.
Careful what you ask for,
Yeah.
be careful what you ask for.
It's keeping attainment. I want to fight, yeah.
Right.
It's keeping attainment. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
Which when you're out of attainment, they want to give you the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but they won't give it. If you have attainment, you gotta go into,
There's certain ways of getting money that's not right.
just to kind of tag on to what Judge Massengale's saying is that, you know, we're within the, oh, the map's right over there. We're within the evacuation route. All of this area here is within the evacuation route of most of, all of what's on that map. But as all of this area keeps building up, especially like I said, this is Pecan Plantation, there'll be 10,000 people within here with one exit going that way and one exit going this way. Well, this leads to Fall Creek, which I just explained the issue with Fall Creek. And this is really heading towards Somerville County, which is where the power plant is. So having some way for all of these people to get to 67 in the case of an evacuation would be ideal. So, because the people that live off of Power Plant and Treaty Oaks and the Bluffs and all of these areas are gonna wanna come through Pecan to get out to 377. And really we need a way for all of these people, plus all the people evacuating out of Pecan. If they can't go this way because Fall Creek is congested, or there's a wreck on Fall Creek and nobody can go, there has to be another way to get to 67 and then get out.
Back to what Steve was saying about the other county, I think we got a pretty good tool considering that part of Pecan is Johnson County citizens.
Mhm. This part.
Yeah, but they forget them.
You brought up a good point. Can we, when you, and I'm assuming Ryan, you're keeping track of all these suggestions somehow or another? We're gonna capture all these?
So that's one of the reasons why we have those sheets of the questionnaire form.
Okay.
We want people like Clint, I think I'm gonna, you got it all documented on a PDF. Nanette, I think I've got some stuff for you. But if y'all have specific suggestions, we would love for you to put that on that questionnaire sheet so that we can then collect it after the meeting and get it documented so that we can then take this and have conversations with y'all.
Yeah, because you're talking faster than we can take notes
Right.
here.
I do have an audio recording.
Oh, great.
Well, it's just a fact. I mean, those old maps, those predate Barry and me. We have no chance of evacuating like those maps try to suggest today. We can't do it.
So can I ask that as you catalog all these issues for us, you look at least 3 different types of things. Things that you think are issues or things that you want that are just associated with regular daily stuff. People going about their daily lives, getting to work, going shopping, taking kids to school, ballet, practice, whatever it is. Stuff that just happens daily. You also have special events that occur. Some of those are good special events, some of those are bad special events, like nuclear evacuation would be a bad special event, but it would be a special event. But you also have other regular special events that occur, festivals in Granbury and things like that. Yet you've got to get people in and out associated with that. And then just anything else that you can think of that gives you opportunities for future economic, like you mentioned, opening up part of the county that isn't available today. So things that you see in the future that would help your county grow the way you want it to grow.
Call those, I guess, opportunities.
Opportunities, yeah. If you could kind of classify your recommendations or your thoughts based on those 3, that at least helps. And if it is associated with a special event, please tell us what type of special event it is. So we're not trying to get nuclear evacuees into Granbury because,
I hate to cut it short, but I know you guys, it sounded like Wade wanted to pull up y'all's map and go.
We've been doing it as you guys have been talking, and we've
Okay.
been looking at some stuff, so, but he can pull it up real quick, just to
I
show you
think
what we
you
got.
had it.
Yeah, you had it.
Did y'all have anything that you wanted to talk about, or is it just for?
That was pretty much it.
Okay.
So, if you want, go ahead and pull that up, if you don't mind, the map you had up before, because I did want to mention a couple other things. So, we're gonna be using our travel demand model to do the forecast for this. And it looks at future population, and then what we're gonna be testing with you are future roadway configurations that you wanna test. Now, I don't mean, intersection, how they look. I mean whether these are 4-lane, 6-lane, 2-lane, those kind of things. Big parameters. So this is what we have in our current travel demand model now. Now you'll see we don't have a lot of the more local roads or even a lot of the collectors that have been built in the last 20 years or so. So some of this we may be able to actually model. Some of it we may not be able to, and we'll have to work with Ryan on how do we determine need on some of those type of things. But this model will certainly help us with a lot of the things you mentioned already, which is, well, how do we get from this side of the county over to Cleburne? Or do we need to get from this side of the county over to Cleburne? Maybe, because the model looks at the entire region. We can look at whether there's opportunities to go to Cleburne or not, or whether we think you're better off focusing on getting people around the north side of the county versus the south side. Those are all the kind of questions that this model will help answer. So it's important for us to hear not just facility-specific needs that you think you have, but just demand needs in general. We need to get to Cleburne. We need to get to Lockheed Martin. We need to get to wherever. You know, those are the kind of things we also need to hear. And then we're going to pull in some of the census journey to work data, which will help us understand currently where do the people that live in your county, where do they go work? And then our model will help us understand, well, based on the growth in the rest of the region, looks like a lot of your folks are going to be going to Ellis County or Parker County as opposed to into Tarrant County. So we'll be able to look at some of the longer term travel patterns as opposed to just the shorter term travel patterns. But it all starts with being able to understand what roadway configurations there are, because as great of a model as we have, it's not going to tell us that if you just put a connection from here to here, we have to put that connection in, test it, and see how it works, right? So we need all that kind of information from you. But this is the basis of where it comes from. Is this color coded by functional classification? By our functional class or the federal?
By ours.
By ours. So this is what 20 years ago we assumed the functional classification of these roadways would be from a regional standpoint. What we also have to keep in mind, and I don't know if you have the layer of federal functional class on there somewhere?
So click on the layers tab.
So there's two different kinds of functional classification I want to make sure you're aware of, because that's going to also help us understand potential funding sources later. There's functional classification regarding how the road actually operates in real life. And then there's functional classifications that are then used to determine whether or not you're eligible for certain types of federal and state
I want
funding.
to turn off the other, go to the top again, turn that one off. Click that off. There you go.
Okay.
And then you can click on the,
This is a federal.
that's federal.
Yeah, so ideally, those two functional classifications mirror each other, right? You don't want to add back, somebody made the point earlier about we don't want to, there's good reasons for looking for money and bad reasons for looking for money. Hopefully the two different types of functional classifications mirror each other, meaning you're not telling the federal government, yes, we really need this roadway to be classified as this just because you want to get federal money, but in reality, you don't really think it's going to be acting that way, right? That's where we have to balance a lot of this stuff. So keep that all in mind. This is the federal functional classification system. So in order to be eligible for federal money, you have to be on this system. So you can see there's a lot of roadways that you've already talked about that aren't eligible for federal funds.
Actually, unless you have to be a major collector or above.
So, oh, sorry, I missed the yellow. Yeah, so ignore the yellow, which I can't really see very well on there anyway. So yes, whatever that purplish color, and above that are what's eligible for federal funds right now.
So the purple gets money.
So the purple is eligible for money.
Purple and above.
Yes.
The purple, green.
Purple and above is eligible. So you
Purple,
talked a little
green,
bit
red.
about Old Granbury Road. So when having that discussion, you can all see that only about half of the project you were just talking about is eligible for federal funds at this point. So
There is a process to add.
What about if it's an extension of a corridor that's identified?
So you have to, because this is a national system, so you're gonna have to convince, we are all gonna have to convince the Federal Highway Administration that it serves a legitimate purpose for doing it. It's not just something you want to do, it's something that you need to do.
So if Michael Morris can convince the federal government to give him money, we're supposed to be building roads, and they gave him $200 million to build a parking lot in Collin County, that's what I thought was the biggest. I went, this guy's a genius.
So there's a lot of swapping that goes on, right?
Yeah, that's.
So one of the, and that's where this trade-off kind of, we do, and this comes later in the process. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You have money available for transportation at various levels. The state has money available. Federal government has money available. What we spend a lot of time doing is working with local governments and trying to make sure the right color of money gets put on the right color of streets or roadway. In other words, why spend federal money on something that you would rather have your local money spent on? Because you've heard it said before, the good news is you get federal money, the bad news is you get federal money. If it's federal money, you gotta meet federal design standards. It makes no sense to build bicycle and pedestrian facilities to federal standards, because you gotta have pavement depths and widths and striping that all meet and have to be maintained to federal standards. A lot easier for you to do those as local standards, and then the federal money we would have put on that, we'll put onto something that is eligible for federal money. Does that make sense?
It's a lot quicker too.
So we can swap money around. We may agree that, yes, we will help you fund that, but we can't put our money on that. You put your money into that, and instead of putting whatever money you were gonna put into, I'm just making this up, Old Granbury Road, instead of you putting local money into that, let's put federal money into that, save your local money and go put it over here. So we'll have those conversations later. I don't want you to get hung up on that now. Let's just focus on needs right now. Then we'll work on building out these type of things.
You put an interesting question up earlier, and I'll be honest, I have no earthly idea how to answer it. These guys are smarter. And you say, well, when Hood County grows up, I mean, you've shown numbers here, great. We're talking about 60,000 becoming 90,000. Right now, at least in my opinion, and I think most in the room would say the last 20 to 30,000 that showed up, they all come through Crescent going to Fort Worth every day. They don't stay here. They're going. And you asked us, and I have no idea what the answer is that next 30,000 always going to be trying to get to Fort Worth like the last 20, or are they going to stay here? And that's a whole different, that's two different kettles of fish.
And a lot of that goes beyond this discussion from a thoroughfare plan standpoint. A lot of that goes to county and city policy, right? You talk to folks, your colleagues up in Collin County. You know, they had a dedicated policy over the last 2 decades to attract the national headquarters of a lot of different big box, financial, those type of things. Because they convinced those folks they had a great lifestyle in Collin County. Well, you got a great lifestyle down here. There are a lot of people that would love to move a major distribution center, a hub of some, you know, a lot of people would love to move down here. The reason a lot of people now are going to Crescent is because we collectively have made it easy for them to get to Crescent. Or at least that's the only option in town, right?
Once they get there, we don't make it.
That's right. So, so this is, you know, this is sort of a chicken and egg thing. We always get caught in the trap of we're chasing development, because especially in unincorporated areas, counties don't have land use control. Some major developer can come in here and plunk down a 5,000 residential unit bedroom community, and you have no control over whether he's going to do that.
Hood County's got land use control.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Then we're going to have fun with you. Because a lot of that has to do with all of that. It's how can you use transportation to develop the county where you want the county to develop? Let's identify those as priorities for the county.
Well, that's why his idea about going through that desert down there, a good idea.
Fantastic idea.
Anything to get them off of your 377, Ward, I understand. No self-interest here, I got it.
Getting them on Chisholm Trail, and it's already a great tollway.
Right now, our density is controlled by the road system standards.
But we also have to be careful not to put all your eggs in 2 or 3 major corridor baskets, right? Because you're building for the future. And, you know, I see this a lot when I work with cities that are, especially cities that are landlocked, but are still developing, still have room to develop. You can either put all your roadway capacity into very specific corridors, or you can spread that capacity out to try to spread the flow of traffic out. It all depends on what you want. If you've got corridors that you want to encourage economic development on, and you want people to funnel to those corridors, then you put all your capacity in those specific corridors. But if you don't want that, you spread it out. Instead of having 3 6-lane roadways, maybe you have 6 4-lane roadways instead. It's all depending on how you want your traffic to distribute itself and how you want to encourage the economic development along those facilities as well.
Except for 377 and the loop, everything else is a 2-lane road.
Now,
Yeah. That's where our issue is. We don't have enough lane capacity.
Which road you talking about?
Any of them. I mean, any of them leaving out of Granbury, they're all 2 lanes, except for 377 and the loop. 144 is 2-lane, 51's a 2-lane.
The loop's 2 lane.
Well, 51 was first designed as a farm to market, so it takes a while for that to catch
Loop
up.
57 is 2 lane.
And 144 is 4 lane.
Yeah.
See, it hadn't been that many years since
Is it
377 was 2 lane.
Okay.
I mean, 377 was 2 lane until, what, early 80s, I believe, somewhere right along there?
44 was until 2000.
I was a kid driving it.
4th of July ride back to Fort Worth was rough.
So TxDOT at one time is going to divide, from Granbury to Toller, was going to be a divided highway like it is between Granbury and Crescent. Is that still on the plans?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure for this meeting it is on the plan.
How far out plan?
It's still got the feasibility schematic, it's a ways.
3 to 5 years?
Ryan?
Or 5 years? 3 to 5 to 10. A little longer.
Yeah.
2 hours. Let's get everybody back to work.
Can you guys make sure you put, did y'all get a questionnaire sheet? Can y'all put that project? Did y'all have that on? your
Yeah, Stephen was very bottom as a long term. Okay. 377 Granbury, Stephen, it's all added, but it's unfunded. It's under the full program. But it is in, restructuring phase. It's on the
It's on the board.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. You can wrap it up.
Project, now we got a
So-
10-plus window.
So we appreciate everybody coming. I think we've taken 2 hours of your time already. And I
Kind
know
of showing.
my brain's stuck, not working as well as it was 2 hours ago. Just, following all this conversation, it's been a great conversation. Thank y'all for coming. Please fill out your questionnaires. Please follow up myself or Clint or Nanette, or any of your commissioners or the judge with additional thoughts, additional input. You know, we probably didn't talk about everything today. There will be more input that's needed, so please contact us with those additional thoughts and input. One thing I wanted to, before we close the meeting is, Dan, can y'all give some input from y'all's team on what data and input needs from y'all? We're hoping to move from this workshop one where we're kind of goal setting, getting some objectives determined. We want to move into the technical analysis phase, but I understand that y'all need information from us before y'all can do that. What information needs do y'all have before y'all get started?
Yeah, it's more or less what I've already talked about. We need to know what the major movements, traffic movements you want to try to encourage. And then by encourage, I mean either they exist today, but you just need more capacity, or they don't exist today and you want to see capacity there, like you're talking about on the southern part of the county. So we need to know those. And then we can at least start running some scenarios to look at travel patterns. And then once we better understand travel patterns, then we can start talking about very specific facility recommendations. So you can give us all of those, You can help us understand all of those, but the first thing we need is where you see those big movements needing to be.
Okay. Well, what we'll do then is we'll gather all the information from everyone that's here today and continue to gather information over the next few weeks as that information continues to trickle in. We probably need to schedule a follow-up meeting, be it virtually, Teams or whatever with you guys. And then we can start planning, y'all's technical analysis and then moving towards that second workshop. But that's gonna be scheduled, once we have, time to discuss more with y'all.
Yeah, and what we'll be doing in the meantime, while you're all thinking about what we just asked for, we're gonna be pulling information that we already know, specifically for your county and your communities. Like I mentioned before, census data, journey to work data from the census, things like that. And then we'll look at what we already know, the travel model that you've already seen that we have. We'll look at what that future roadway system, how that distributes your traffic. And we'll bring those back to you as sort of a baseline, and then we can start talking about all the things all the other ideas you have and how that affects this baseline that will come up with.
I think that's all we got, Judge.
Good deal.
Thank y'all so much.
Well, thank all of y'all for coming. Troy, thank.
Yeah, we love doing
y'all.
this.
Thank
so
y'all.
We love doing
Text
this.
off.
so.
Thank y'all.
Bring it on.